So how do brands like you said, Nike and Apple, what is it that they're doing that is creating that passionate connection, that army of raving fans? What is the thing that they're doing that other people are missing out on?
Apple, I don't know about Nike, but I know internally at Apple, they're very serious about brand. So they talk about it. They measure brand love when they design a new product. Their discussions are about how do we design this product to create, brand love. So it's not a surprise that when I do my research, and one of the things I'll ask, just really simply, to a large sample of people, are there any brands that you love? If so, what are they? And then just make a list of what people tell me, that Apple always ends up not just on top, but on top by a very wide margin, depending on what group of people you're talking to. Sometimes Nike is a close second. And the way I think about this is, you can think about it like a recipe. Imagine that, brand love was a cinnamon bun. Why a cinnamon bun? Because I really like cinnamon buns.
Me
So
too.
let's just
Me too.
let's just pretend it's a cinnamon bun. So if you were to like have a cinnamon bun and you're eating, you're like, wow, this is really good. I should make this at home. What do I think is in this thing? The first thing you'd say is flour, because flour makes up most of it. That's like the single biggest ingredient. And the analogy to flour is, product excellence. So all of these brands that people love all have really excellent products. There is such a strong connection between product excellence and brand love that a lot of people just locked into that and they can't see anything else. So it's like if you get home and you try and make that cinnamon bun and you take out a bunch of flour and you look at it and be like, that's not a cinnamon bun. What's the matter? Right. And then you just like say, well, maybe it needs more flour. You just make it more and more and more. You just get a bigger pile of flour. You don't get a cinnamon bun. You got to get all the ingredients in there. So the next group of ingredients would be, in our cinnamon bun analogy, it'd be the butter and the sugar and the cinnamon and all those yummy things. That would be consumer experience, customer experience, or user experience. The user experience has to be positive. It absolutely can't be negative. Even if you should do your best to have it be something that's actually enjoyable. So I'll make the analogy here to a date. So if you go out on a date with somebody for the first time, we've all done this, and we may have even used this language. Sometimes you'll come back and you'll say, well, that person, they looked good on paper, but there wasn't any chemistry. What does that mean? Well, the look good on paper part means they sort of meet the criteria that I thought I wanted in a dating partner, whatever those were, but there wasn't any chemistry. Oftentimes people don't know what the hell that even means. They sense it, but they don't know what it really means. It's not that complicated. Chemistry is just, did you have a good time on the date? If you're sitting there talking to someone and it's hard to make conversation and it's boring and you're feeling anxious and uncomfortable, that's no chemistry. If you're sitting there and it's easy to talk with a person, you're feeling really good and positive and happy, that's chemistry. And that applies very much to the user experience. If the user experience with your product or brand is frustrating and difficult or boring, people aren't going to feel the sense of chemistry with the brand. You're not going to get love in that case. So those are the first two ingredients. But if we then go back to our cinnamon bun and say, like, all right, you got the flour, then you got the butter and the cinnamon and everything else. You put that in there, you mix it up and you try and cook it. And you're like, hey, this isn't a cinnamon bun. This is a weird pancake. Something's missing. It's still not working. The problem is, of course, what's missing there is the yeast. And the problem is that if you just look at a cinnamon bun, if you don't know much about baking, you don't know that there's any yeast in there. You can't smell it, you can't see it, you can't taste it. It's not the largest ingredient, but it creates the chemical reactions that make everything else happen. And if you don't have it, you're not going to get the result you want. So here in the analogy to the yeast, this is where it starts to get sciencey and complicated. The human brain thinks in fundamentally different ways about people and objects. If you look at a tree and try and decide, have I seen that tree before? Your brain will process that information in one physical part of the brain. If you look at a person and say, have I seen that person before? Your brain will process that visual information in a different physical part of your brain. So it's not, it's really different in the way it treats people and objects. Sometimes it's about actually thinking about them in different parts of the brain. more often it's about different kinds of neural networks that get activated, different kinds of hormones that are released. Oxytocin is a hormone that shows up a lot in interpersonal relationships and can show up with brands, but doesn't show up with brands very often. So there's very different processes. Love is really requires your brain to think about the brand as if it was a person. And your brain can do this. If you think about it, we have this word objectification. So we say like, oh, they're objectifying or dehumanizing that person. And that means you're thinking about the person as if they were an object. The fact that we have that word gives you a clue, like, wait a minute, there is a difference in the way we think about objects and the way we think about people. Like, but most of the time when we think about it, we're concerned with, well, you're taking a person, you're thinking about them like an object. And you can do that sometimes in the same way you can do the opposite. You take an object and personify it and think about it like it was a person. And I can talk in more detail if you'd like about both Apple and Nike, how they go about getting people to do this. But because real love is part of the thought processes that evolved in animals, not just people, in the context of relationships with their mates and children, they are really reserved for those thought processes that are about people. And so every company has a strategic decision to make. And that is, are we going to try and get consumers to think about our brand as if it was a person in some way? And there's three main ways to do that. In which case, then we can go on and try and develop brand love. Or are we just going to say, you know what? Our brand isn't a person. It's just an object. People are going to think about it like it's an object. That's okay. Let's win in object world. We're just going to be an object. How do we win in object world? And there's, two basic ways of doing that.